He is a voice in the church space when it comes to social media. We got my man Brady here with Pro Church Tools.
People look at my accounts now. You know, my YouTube has 145,000 subscribers. Our Instagram has 109,000 followers. I've built that over 10 years. One great video, you can build the same audience. It took me 5 years to build. What made the printing press so amazing was that every person could have access to the wisdom of Scripture. And we're living through the next great communication shift. What that means is every church can take their message and share it in ways that were previously unimagined. You posting on social is not just random people around the world. Disproportionately more people close to you are going to see that content. Every single phone around you, including yours, now has half of its real estate up for grabs. If you make good stuff, you have the chance to get free distribution.
Welcome to the Faith Hustle Podcast, where we help young Christian entrepreneurs learn how to build their business and careers God's way. My name's McQuinda. I'm your host. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. And in that time, I've been mentored by some of the most successful business owners, but they weren't just amazing business owners. They were incredibly devoted to their faith and to their families and had a holistic view of success. And that's what we're trying to strive for here at Faith Hustle, is not just monetary blessings and success, but a holistic view of what it looks like to succeed with the Lord and to bear fruit. And so we teach on 5 pillars here at Faith Hustle. We teach on stewardship. We teach on integrity, humility, being spirit-led, and generosity. Those are the 5 things we believe makes up someone that has a faith hustle. And we believe those things allow us to make it on earth as it is in heaven through our gifts and our talents. And if that's something that resonates with you, or yeah, I want to also be a part of a tribe that thinks like that is striving for that, we encourage you to subscribe to wherever you are watching from, whether it be YouTube, whether it be any audio platforms, whether it be Apple or Spotify. We encourage you to subscribe and join this growing tribe of people going after the same heart. As well, if you've been encouraged by any of the podcasts that we've put out, we would love a review. It helps us a ton to get it out to more people. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment to do that, that would mean the world. Thank you so much for being a part of this whole journey with us. And on today's episode, we have a very, very, very special guest, someone I've been following personally for many, many years. He is a voice in the church space when it comes to social media, marketing, communication, helping the church really get this right so we can reach and evangelize more people and to fulfill the Great Commission. I love his heart, love all the things he puts out. It's really helping a lot of people. I have Brady Shearer. Did I say it right? Shearer.
Got it.
I didn't say it right.
Nailed it.
Okay, all right, I got it. We got my man Brady here with Pro Church Tools, with Social Sermons, Nucleus. You probably have 5 other companies that I don't even know about. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you for the invitation. Great to be here.
Absolutely. No, it's awesome. Like I said, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. All your carousels always are convicting. And they're like, oh, that's good. Yeah, we probably should think like that. And especially from someone that for many, many years, how I even got into advertising was I was helping my church with their social media. And there's so many things that I realized that we are doing wrong. We can just treat social media like a bulletin board, basically, a glorified one. And you've helped bring a lot of direction for churches to think differently about it. And so I want to get right into your story, man, and about how you got into all this, because from what I'm aware, you started the route of actually getting into ministry yourself and becoming a pastor, I believe. And then you've kind of gone this route to social media, helping churches with their social media and marketing and communication. Kind of tell me about that journey, how that started, how you went from that ministry route to where you're at now.
Sure. So today I run a business called Pro Church Tools. I'm Canadian, and so we have a branch here in Canada, about an hour south of Toronto, and then we also have a branch in the States. And today we have about 30 employees, let's say. We've been in business officially 10 years as an incorporated company, and I did a couple of years as a sole proprietor prior to that. So that's what I do today. I intended to become a youth pastor. So I went to Bible college. My girlfriend and I, now wife, we moved across the country. So think about moving maybe from Buffalo to Montana. That was about the distance that we moved. We met in high school at youth group. So we go across the country to start Bible college, and I want to become a youth pastor. It was in youth group where I feel like I first felt accepted as a human being, and youth group was transformative for me. And I felt it was such an amazing part of my life. I was like, man, if I can be a leader myself in this and pass this same blessing on to the next generation, that'd be awesome. So I graduated with my degree in theology and youth ministry. But a couple of years into Bible college, I kind of had this like realization that I just didn't have the what I like to call relational bandwidth to be a pastor, a youth pastor in particular. Really, students, those kids, like they need so much and deserve so much of a person's time and relational energy. And I'm pretty good with people. I like being in groups, but I have a limited kind of bandwidth for that. And it doesn't charge up my battery. It drains my battery. I'm much more the person that tinkers in the lab. And so I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I want to work for and with churches. That's my only desire. I'm getting this degree. And this is me entering my third year. My wife and I got married like the same month. And so I start at this new church plant, an internship as their media director. And the pastor puts a camera in my hand. It's a Canon T3i. And he says, hey, like, we need a vision video. It's like, go and make one. I'm like, okay. So I remember I'm on the corner of this intersection. And the thing to know about Edmonton, which is where we were living, is that it's the most northern major metropolis in North America. So if you think about like that show on Discovery, like Ice Road Truckers, like that's where it's filmed. Like that's where we're actually living. It's 8 months of winter. It's so cold there that in Canada, we do the temperature by Celsius. And often I'll talk to an American. They'll be, oh yeah, it's like 98 here. And I'm like, I don't, that sounds hot. And they're like, oh, it's hot. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they'll say like, it's 75. I'm like, is that hot? They're like, well, less hot. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. It gets so cold there that's where Fahrenheit and Celsius intersect. Like -40 Celsius and -40 Fahrenheit, that's the same thing. It's that bad. It's so bad you have to plug your car into an electrical outlet at night. Every car, I moved there and I learned this, comes in its hood, there's an actual like plug. And all the parking stalls have plugs. So the battery doesn't freeze overnight. So when you wake up at 5 a.m. to begin your 2-hour commute because they don't plow the roads because it's a hellscape, you can actually start the car. So this is where we were living. And I remember being at this intersection trying to film this vision video for our church. And we were trying to emulate this other video that had this type of time-lapse, but it was a tilt-shift time-lapse effect where the corners of the frame get blurred and all of the subjects in the frame, whether they're cars or people, there's no motion blur at all. And it looks like miniatures, like in a miniature world. It's this really cool effect.
I've seen that, yep.
So that was what I started with. I was like, oh, I'm going to replicate this. So I'm standing on the corner, and I'm with my roommate. And we don't have a tripod. So I'm putting the camera up on this electrical box as a way of like propping it up. And I'm taking photos. And within about 20 minutes of this, we hear police sirens. And this cop pulls up behind us, and he goes, what are you doing? This is like 2010. Like, phones are not ubiquitous. We're not just, creators don't exist. People aren't walking around with cameras. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're making a video for our church. And he's like, son, you should go home. Because it looked suspicious. And I remember I got back to my apartment with my roommate and I was like, I don't know, man, this isn't for me. Like that was the most humiliating moment. Like I don't like confrontation. Like the police talked about. I'm just a small town farm boy. And anyway, I pushed through that. We made the vision video. It was a great success. And from there, I just start learning new skills every time a new project at the church comes up. And then I go back to class, and I'm sitting next to my peers, still in class. This is third year. And they're going to become lead pastors at really small Canadian churches, worship pastors, youth pastors. And guess what? Like, this is 2011 now. The first thing that they do when they get on the job, first week, pastor's going to be like, hey, can you start like a Facebook page for our church? I hear that's important now. And I'm like, if I can learn these skills, so can they. And so I start teaching everything that I'm learning. So we start our YouTube channel and our podcast and a blog. And this is all kind of like early 2010s. We've been podcasting now for 10 years, on YouTube for 10 years, blog for 10 years. Company turns 10 years old when we're recording this in 10 days.
Wow. Congratulations.
We've been at it for a long time. And what started as just me by myself, kind of in a bathrobe. My wife was working 2 different jobs, and she'd come home and I'd be like, I installed a WordPress plugin today, babe. And she's like, okay, great. I have to go work another 4-hour shift to support you.
Right. Yeah.
You bum. It started as that. And, here we are today.
Since we started Faith Hustle Podcast, I get so many comments and DMs and text messages asking me, McQuinda, how do I start my own podcast? You may be sitting on an idea that you've had for a few months, maybe even a few years, and you just don't know where to start. It can be overwhelming when it comes to production, strategy, when to post, when to put things out. How can you make it a business? How can you make money from it? How do you find guests? It can be overwhelming. And there's a reason that 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3 is because they don't go in with a plan. Well, at Faith Hustle, we want to help you with that. We are doing our first ever live training on June 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time called the Podcast Hustle Training. We'll be teaching best practices, tips, strategies, how to make it a business, how to structure a show. And we'll teach you the things that we wish we knew before we started to help you avoid the common pitfalls in podcasting and turn your idea into an actual podcast business. So if this interests you and you want to start your own podcast, make sure you register below for our free training on June 6th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We look forward to seeing you there. Now let's get back to the show. Wow. Man, I resonate in so many different levels with that. You may or may not know this. So I do video production that's my actual, what pays the bills. And how I started was literally at my church, just serving, volunteering. And we had a guy that was doing church announcements. He knew I was trying to get into video because I was just doing stuff on my iPhone and photography at the time. He's like, hey, well, the guy just moved who does video announcements. You said you wanted to do it. We need one this week. And then that was like a Tuesday. And I never edited before. The only times I filmed, I had a lot of help and to teach me what the buttons were. So I literally YouTubed many nights, stayed up late, probably but 15 hours into a 30-second video just to figure out how to do it. Downloaded Premiere Pro, the free trial, and it was terrible. It was awful. And then they're like, that's okay. You're going to do it next week. And I did that for 3 years, and that's how I learned. So I resonate with I think a lot of it is the trial by fire. Just throw you in there, and then you figure it out. But I love that. I love how you recognize that, one, being self-aware enough to know that, hey, this may be my desire, but not everything, I imagine it might not look like that, but you're still in the ministry. You're still doing and helping the church. You're just doing it in a different facet. So I love that you didn't limit yourself and were honest with yourself of hey, I might not be built with these facets to do the traditional sense, but I can help in that. What I guess, and this is not even in my notes, what kind of helped you process that? Because I got to imagine, even with you being self-aware enough to say, hey, you know what, I might not be built with this, and who I am to do it at this level. I'm sure that had to be still challenging to kind of give up a version or a thought of how you thought you would do ministry as far as youth pastoring. What kind of helped you make that shift of no, this is equally as important as helping in media?
I mean, it was really challenging because I was the guy that before we even went to Bible college, I had purchased the textbooks and I was reading them in my spare time, in 11th and 12th grade. I had systematic theology, all 1,400 pages of it. And I was like, oh, interesting. That's an interesting theory. I've never heard that one before. I so much wanted to be a pastor. I was such a keener. In my first year in my Pauline literature class, I finished with a 104% because I did extra credit.
Oh my gosh!
That's how much of a lunatic
how can you do
that I was. Yeah, I mean, it's just. It also just goes to show that Bible college is not a real school, right? 104%. Oh yeah, sure, okay.
We're just making up.
If you say so. So it was really challenging to put it down. I think it's important to understand the season of life that I was in. Right, I was 19, 20, 21, 22. So newly married, just laying down roots, it wasn't like there was anything to lose at that point. I wasn't like abandoning something that I had built or done for a long time. And so that season of life really allowed us to kind of like, hey, take some big swings. And if it works, great. And if not, like, I have a degree. Like, my mom always was like, you're going to finish this. You're going to get this degree because your online business thing is a joke. I know it is. I support you, but also let's be realistic here, son. And so I remember, it's curious that you bring up video announcements because that was the first product that we ever offered in our company. Yeah. It was called Pro Video Announcements. It still exists. My pastor now runs it, which is awesome. But we did that for like 10 years. And that was the first product that we did. Churches would send in their scripts through our portal every single week. And then I would like set up this collapsible green screen. And I'd stand in front of it. And I'd set up the T3i and I would deliver video announcements and then I'd edit them and I'd send them back to the church. And
you do it for them?
I do it for them, yeah. And because nobody was doing video announcements in 2011, 2012, I bought the domain name provideoannouncements.com. And guess what? It was like number 2 in Google because ain't nobody else writing on that.
Yeah.
And so churches would find us. And my meager church income of $1,200 a month was replaced by 4 churches that signed up. And that was crazy. But before that happened, and this probably lends credence to my mom's lack of faith in me, is that I remember there was this church in Tampa, and they signed up. They were the first customer to ever like submit payment to our company. It wasn't a company. It was just like me at that time. And I called my mom right away, and I was like, Mom, someone actually bought the thing. Like I made money on the internet. Like 2011, like making money on the internet. Like that's crazy. And within 30 minutes, I get an email from this church and they said, hey, like we checked out what you have to offer and we're going to need a refund. And
oh, gosh.
They must have made that bad of a first impression. And so I refund them the money. And I'm literally in my church office. And I was an intern. So I wasn't in an office. I was in like an open area where we'd have like Wednesday night worship. I'm just crying at like this makeshift table desk that I've set up. And I didn't call my mom because I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's about as bad as it
He's
can
asking
go.
you questions. You're like, oh, it's still going great. They love it.
Yeah, no, we upsold them. Yeah, they have a couple campuses. They're all on a package now. Yeah, no. Yeah, so really challenging to abandon something when you're confident that's what you want to become, especially because Bible college had a very clear path. You could take the youth ministry tract or the missions tract or the worship tract or the pastoral tract. The start a church digital business in 2011 from your 14th floor, 1-bedroom apartment in the most northern major metropolis in North America while your wife works insurance during the day and retail at night, that didn't exist. And so there's the uncertainty factor, right? There's a known quantity to becoming a pastor, and there's a complete unknown with following that. I didn't call it relational bandwidth then. It was just a gut. That was like, a sense of the spirit. But I think it was just finding my lane, the intersection of what I did best and what the world could benefit from. And I think that's always something worth chasing. I'm really grateful I found it at the age that I did. But it's funny, before I found that, I had just tried so many things, Mkwenda. I had been commissioned to be a painter. I had been a DJ. I had really succeeded and excelled 104% in academia. I was quite athletic. I did a lot of that when I was younger. And I tried a bunch of things, and I would kind of just like reach my ceiling with it. Like, okay, I'm 5'7". Yes. Did I play against all the NBA players on the Raptors? Yes, but they all grew and I did it in 4th grade. Corey Joseph and Kelly Olynyk, they kept growing and I didn't. So I had reached my ceiling with all these other passions. And with this one, I just kept like excelling and I kept feeling motivated and inspired by what I was doing and then just kept chasing it, running that lane. And hey, 10 years pass and who knows what the next time will look like.
Yeah, that's so good. I find, we've been doing this podcast a few months now, and I found a pattern. You can just kind of recognize patterns in people's stories. And probably the biggest one, rarely did anybody strategically plan to do what they're doing. They just kind of followed what the next best step felt like, or like what they sensed the Lord leading them. It was just like, hey, this just feels like the next best thing, and I'm just gonna follow that. And they stumbled upon it, rather than being this thing of like, I think sometimes from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, you were always destined for that. That was always in you. You had this master plan. It's like, a lot of times it's just like, hey, you just say yes to this, and then that leads to another yes, And so I think that's so cool. And I love what you said about the intersection of what you do best and what people need the most, and what the world needs the most. I think that's so awesome. Speaking to that, so again, your voice is super huge on social media, helping churches. I love the way you put it, and I want you to say it in your own words of the church going through a communication shift. Why? I mean, I don't know why anybody wouldn't think that it's not necessary to do social media for your ministry or church in 2024, but there are some, or some people may do it, but they just do it the bare minimum, right? They're like, all right, we're not going to put many resources behind it. We're not going to invest in gear. We're just going to do the bare minimum because in their core, they're like, no, I like the old school way of how we did it. What would you say for anyone that's in the ministry, looking to start a ministry or a church? Why is it necessary to take social media seriously in this communication shift that you talk about?
Yeah, it's the way we describe it is we help churches navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. And that verbiage came out of about 100 conversations where people would ask me so what do you do? And I'd be like, yeah, I help churches with social and their website and communications and branding and graphic design and video and photography. And then they'd be like, man, I stopped listening a long time ago. And I was like, okay, no, I get that. So how can we say this in a way that's a little bit more accessible? And the reason we anchor it to the last great communication shift 500 years ago, which was the printing press, which was a big catalyst behind the Protestant Reformation, is what made the printing press so amazing was that every person could have access to the wisdom of Scripture, and they could read it in their own language because books could be printed. What it did was it took a message that was reserved for a few people to talk about, and it made it accessible to everyone. And we're living through the next great communication shift. The fact that we are on this podcast at all in 2 different countries, and people from many other countries, states, provinces around the world are also listening to what we have to say, and no one gave us permission to have this podcast, is illustrative of how dramatic this communication shift that we're living through is. And if you think about how many industries have been disrupted just in the past 10 years, from linear television to music to anything and everything in
newspapers,
between. Yeah. To think that the church is immune to this communication shift is naive. And I am not naive to the challenges of social media. I think we're about 10 years in now. We have enough data and enough, generations have gone through it and grown up on it that we've kind of begun to see, okay, maybe we need to implement a little bit more mindfulness about how we use these platforms, about how we engage with them. Because if we engage with them mindlessly, without any sort of policy or values whatsoever, they're going to be harmful and damaging. The reason they're harmful and damaging is because they're so powerful. It's like nuclear power, it can create incredibly dangerous outcomes when handled not carefully, but it's amazing at creating energy when handled with care. And digital is the exact same way, and what that means is every church can take their message and share it in ways that were previously unimaginable. Recently, social media kind of entered into its second era. I like to break up social media's history into 2 distinct eras. The first era, the social graph era. This is when your feed was influenced by your friend and family connections. You recognized every single person on your feed. TikTok comes around a few years ago, and they introduce a brand new way of doing social that's so disruptive that every other social platform copies them. And this ushers in a new era of social that I call the discovery era, where now the content that we see on our feeds is really influenced by our viewing habits, our personal interests, and where you live matters now too. Geographic location. I can't tell you how many times this is so strange. I'll follow a creator and then I'll go to a restaurant and there they are, at the Brazilian steakhouse serving the food. I'm like, oh, you lived around here? I didn't know. But that was why they were on my feed, because they were locally relevant to me. What this means now for churches as in-person organizations is now you posting on social is not just random people around the world. Disproportionately more people close to you are going to see that content. And if you think about your feed and the fact that you don't recognize nowadays half of the things that you see on it, and if you're a business owner, this is the same thing. What that means is every single phone around you, including yours, now has half of its real estate up for grabs. If you make good stuff, you have the chance to get free distribution. Free distribution. When I started at my church plant in 2010, we did billboards, we did radio and TV ads, we did newspaper, and we did printed mailers that we hand out door to door.
Wow.
Distribution for that was not free. You think the radio's like,
No.
yeah, you want to get on the airwaves? Oh, free, man. You go for it. Social is literally free. I have videos, and this is true for the churches we work with. It's certainly true for so many listeners. You publish a video like, oh my gosh, that video got like 200,000 views. There's that many people that saw my stuff. If you make good stuff, people will see it. And for churches, that means we can share the good news. We can be the evangelists that we don't have to set up a tent meeting. We don't have to do like travel around the world. You can take the wisdom of Scripture, the good news of Jesus that is for all time and for all people, and use these platforms and distribute it for free. Something that, again, I'll say it, previously unimaginable.
Yes. I often say, I think the disciples, if they were here, they would be so jealous of, man, I think they would still be going out, but like what we have, what we have to take advantage of technology, of social media, it is incredible. And that's such just great handles, even just in how you broke that down of how the algorithm has changed and how it's prime. Because I feel a lot of people, when it comes to social media, business or ministry, because it's been 10 years, people will feel like, oh man, I missed the wave, right? So like I'm late to the game. It's like, everybody's already grown their accounts huge, and so it hinders people to feel like they even have a chance. How do you help churches, business owners kind of see like, no, like it doesn't matter if you're just getting in the game now, get in the game because it matters and you can still get traction.
So like, I'm just trying to think of some of like previous industries. Okay, let's port this over and try not to live in the moment. We are about 16 years in to social media. And that means it's kind of an unruly adolescent. And we see that, it's still changing a lot. It hasn't really like cemented itself. It's got a lot of good about it. Sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, that seems bad. We should probably not do that. It's just like a regular adolescent, just like me as a 16-year-old. In 16 more years, someone else on another podcast will ask another guest that exact question. And people will long for the period we're in right now. Oh, if I had only started then. The old adage, when's the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. Third best time? Tomorrow. And that's the reality for basically anything that you want to achieve in life. I think it just comes down to your time horizons too. Like if I could turn the camera on this computer over to the right of me, I have on my chalkboard wall a message that I look at every day. It says, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. People look at my accounts now. My YouTube has 145,000 subscribers. Our Instagram has 109,000 followers. Those numbers are insane because I talk about social media for churches. I don't talk about like fitness or food recipes or finance, or Minecraft. Like I talk about something really, really niche. And I've built that over 10 years. So it can look impressive, but it's because for 10 years, I just woke up every day and did a little bit more and published a little bit more. It's like any good fitness routine, right? Like one amazing workout won't accomplish anything. One terrible day of eating won't diminish anything. It's the choices you make week over week, month over month, year over year. And so for anyone that feels like this is challenging to start, first of all, shame on you. Because when I started in 2011, you couldn't reach new people unless you paid for Facebook ads. Like I had to write a blog post every week sorry, I'm holding my wife's scrunchie right now as I talk. I'm getting so worked up. I had to write a blog post every single week for 3 years for one to get ranked in Google. One. It was like the best church websites of 2017 or 2014. Like that was the one that ranked. 140 other ones that my mom read and nobody else. And I would build an email list slowly to earn trust and to earn attention. Now, from one great video, you can like build the same audience it took me 5 years to build. And so the opportunities are so much greater. That season won't exist forever. This season where you can publish an Instagram reel or a YouTube short and reach... Well, knocked my mic over. Again, getting so worked up. My goodness. And you can reach like 200,000 people. Like, I don't know if that'll exist forever because that's something that's so valuable. More and more people are going to go after that. So I just say, go for it. Now is still a great, great time.
Man, that's so encouraging. I love that analogy. We underestimate what we can do, in a year. I think it's just it's a mindset thing. It's just a mindset shift, because the reality is it's just an excuse. That's really what it is. It's fear, and you have to get over that, and almost have to get over yourself. A lot of times, I find a lot of people, it's just pride, that kind of, keeps them from stepping forward. And actually, this kind of leads to another question I have. One of the things I love about what you do, and like you said, you've been doing this for 10 years now, more than 10 years, but 10 years with Pro Church Tools and all these different things. You give out so much content for free, like free value. And like me and my producer were just watching before we started one of your videos, is your master class of social media. I think it's like 45 minutes long. And you could have easily charged a lot of money for it. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of infographics, animation. Your team is fire when it comes to that stuff. And I'm like, it's free. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to, in my days of marketing consulting, a financial advisor or somebody in business, and I'm encouraging them, hey, put your stuff out for free, give value first, right? All the Gary V adage, right? And they're like, no, I can't give out my best stuff because I'm going to give away the secret sauce. And I'm like, they can Google basically everything that you do. Now, will they do it is a whole nother question, right? You still need a guide, but why do you feel like people are hesitant to give their best, give the best value? And again, maybe we're talking a little bit more business-wise than ministry, but honestly, even still in ministry of like, well, I don't want to give out the best stuff because they won't come into service or they won't show up to an event if we just put this stuff out there. What would be your encouragement to kind of break that mindset to help them shift that?
So the most important commodity that you can possess is attention. Maybe even more important or secondary is trust. At the end of every video and podcast we do, I always say to the audience, thank you for your time, attention, and trust. The expertise that you have, the knowledge that you have, that is not your most valuable asset. Your most valuable asset is earned trust that only is something you can acquire by giving away the expertise that you have. And so when that shift is made, it's really easy to buy into, oh, okay, what I have to first give to earn equity with that person. I have expertise and knowledge they need. I give it away for free. In exchange, I earn their trust and attention. When we launched our software company, Nucleus, in 2017, Nucleus is a church website builder. Nucleus.church is the domain. 3,000 churches run their church websites on Nucleus. When we launched it in 2017, I sent out an email to my email list that I had been building at that point for 6 years. And I said, hey, we're launching a software platform. If you sign up in the first week as like a founding church, we called them charter churches, you'll get a lifetime discount. And more than 1,000 churches paid to sign up in that very first week. And that was because of the trust and attention that I had earned by giving away my best ideas and education freely for 6 years. You don't need to have 1,000 churches sign up in 1 week. You don't need to give away attention for 6 years. Give away your best stuff, your best teaching for 6 years. But people think that their knowledge is their most valuable thing. It is right now. When you give it away, you acquire something much more valuable.
Wow. Oh, that's good. You acquire something more valuable than just a knowledge transaction. I think that's so true. I watched the interview recently. I've watched it several times with Dave Ramsey, and he talks about how his brand is trust. Like everything else, is held by that. And that's why he's very particular who he has as sponsors. He's very certain to not lose that. And that trust has been earned for 30 plus years of him being on the radio and podcasting and giving out free value, answering people's questions. I've often said on this podcast, and I guess this is a revolving theme because it must be something that we need as a culture. I think sometimes we can, as business owners, think that we're owed something, of like, just because we set up shop, you and I put out a product, you're owed, you owe me. And so you just need to buy exactly. Because I mean, the amount of times I've talked to business owners, and like, man, I've been in business for X amount of years, and do they know that I've been doing this for so long? They should just be wanting to flock. And it's like, they don't know you, and they don't, and why would they? You know, like, you haven't done the work to develop that trust. You can't take a withdrawal on something you never deposited. I think that's so wise, and I think a lot of us can learn a lot from. I'd love to get into the businesses you have. So again, you have Pro Church Tools, and I don't know if they're all like technically one and it kind of spans out, but you have Pro Church Tools, you have Social Sermons, I believe, and Nucleus, right? They all do different things, but they all help the church. I'd love to, you mentioned you have about 30 employees in 2 different continents. Talk about that, especially coming from, I don't know if you came from a business background. Obviously, like, you're very wise, very smart, but it sounds like you came mainly from a ministry background, similar to myself. How did you learn how to scale, 3 businesses and software and all these different things? Like, what helped you scale, from this one idea and helping churches is one way to what you do now?
I mean, how did I learn how to do that tilt shift time lapse? The value that we installed in our company this year, and the phrase that I've told myself for the last many years, is calculated delusion. It's a purposely paradoxical value, because when I started the company as, this 21-year-old who has no ministry or business pedigree in his family whatsoever, it was a delusional idea to think that in 10 years it could become this. Now, of course, I didn't think it could become this in 10 years. All I wanted was to replace my church income, which was $1,200 a month. Even replacing that seemed like an insurmountable task at the beginning. But you just go one by one. The first thing that I needed to do was I had to start a website. I needed a blog. So I learned WordPress, and I learned how to buy a theme, install a theme, customize a theme, and set up an SEO plugin so that I had a meta description box where I could put in, blog descriptions for the search engines. That was the first task. And then, the second task was, okay, I want to accept money online. I need to set up a place where someone can give me their credit card. I need a payment portal. So I set up Stripe. And it just became one task after another. And you just acquire the knowledge kind of as needed as you go. And you make colossal mistakes as needed as you go, because those mistakes are critical for humbling you, but also for teaching you lessons so that you're ready for the next thing that comes. I would say the thing that I'm most appreciative of for our business, which I've had no control over, is steady, pretty slow growth over 10 years. We've never had a moment where we went 10x in 6 months or 10x in 2 years. We've just grown by 20 to 30% every year. And what that's done is it's allowed my competency and my character to scale along with what I'm responsible for. Because if I was responsible for what I am now 10 years ago, I would have ruined every relationship and squandered every opportunity, because it would have just been too much. I can't carry that all on my shoulders. But like any muscle that you work at in the gym, progressive overload, every year lifting a bit more weight. And now it's that one guy in the gym. You're like, well, how did you get muscles like that? I was like, I've just been here for 10 years, man. Just lift that and lift a little bit more every day for 10 years and you'll get there too. So it looks like a lot, but YouTube University, Google University, a good accountant to replace what the terrible first accountant did, and you're there.
Oh my God. Listen, that's how I learned everything I know. YouTube University has been it. I think you said something I love calculated delusion. Because honestly, I don't know if anyone sane gets into business. You get into it as a dream. But really you start it because you are trying to pay the bills. For me, it was if I can cover rent, and eat something, I'm good. But yeah, to scale and start you almost have to be brave enough or have a bit of delusion of, hey, I can do this. I think that's so wise. Everything you said, I think is so needed and encouraging for someone that's younger in their start. that you don't have to, in this world that we have of all these comparisons of companies are like, yeah, we went from 0 to this in 2 years or a year. And you're like, oh man, so if I don't get there by this time, I'm failing. But you don't know, that's not every story. And something that can be quick to gain can be quick to lose in the very same breath.
Well, and if I can, like
yes.
what you don't know about a lot of those companies too is that they're taking on venture capital and they are being given, a 24-month runway where it's like, hey, if you don't X, Y, and Z by that, you are going to lose all of this. Or they're sacrificing all of their relationships, their personal health, their spiritual health to get there. And, we have this thing called the rule of 2 in our company where it's like, hey, we can have one busy season or one really tough season. But once we've had 2 in a row, that's not a seasonal change. That's like an intentional choice that we've made. And that came out of the rule of 2 that I have for myself, which is like I have this habits of joy spreadsheet, I call it, where I kind of track every day, like here are the things that I need to do to be a healthy human. And it's okay to miss one day. When you miss 2 days, that's when there's a problem. You didn't pray for 2 days in a row. You didn't eat according to the choices that you've like said you want to do 2 days in a row. That's the problem, the rule of 2. And so the things that you have to sacrifice, and as someone that has a very small relatively, but following online, and I know what happens behind the scenes with a lot of people is you just don't want to trade your life with someone else just to get what you see on the outside because you don't know what it's costing them to get there.
Yes, 1,000%. And I think that's the curse that we're in right now of social media is that you can be in your own world and just dreaming of, man, if I could just get there, if I can just have what this person has. And it's funny, like you said, you meet people who did get there. Maybe they sacrificed along the way. They would do anything to be in your shoes. They be like to have healthy relationships with friends and family. I mean, the amount of times I've met business owners that they literally don't have a social life at all. Like they don't have one person they can trust. They're always, looking over their shoulder, thinking who's gonna, who might screw them over, all those different things. They can't be at peace. I often tell people recently, like Michael Jackson, right? The king of pop, right? Accomplished more than probably almost any artist alive, needed a tranquilizer that could take a bear out for him to just sleep. And it's like, I don't know if I want to sacrifice that, right? Like that's scripture, right? Don't, you gain the world and lose your soul. That's not a good trade. And I think there's a new wave, and I'm praying that there is a new wave of how we can do business. And I think part of it is go the slow route. Like only do what you can do, right? Like don't take on things that you can't take on. I think there's wisdom in that.
100%. Yeah. And it requires intention and it requires a lot of sacrifice. The speaking opportunities that I turn down, the venture capitalists that call my phone, hey, like take our money. We want to buy you. We want to like give you millions so that you can like do this thing. It's like, well, that kind of compromises like my values. I don't want to do that. But they're like, yeah, but money, like that. Those types of things are challenging. You have to be really rooted in your values. You have to know what your values are. You have to be able to articulate them. If I stood up, I could show you. I have an entire leg sleeve of tattoos, and every one of those tattoos is either a person that I care about, a place that I visited, or a value that I have. And they're literally tattooed on my body as a reminder of like, this is the person that you claim to want to be. So you say you want to live like this. Now live like it. And those choices are not easy in the moment. One of our company's values is say the quiet part out loud. And when we installed it, everyone was like, yes, no more. Like, we don't want to have simmering resentment and bitterness. We're going to talk about things until the first time you have to talk about a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, I don't know if I like this value. And you have to live it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you do it the first time and then you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And you do it the second time and you're like, I'm getting familiar with this. By the time you do it the third time, you're like, this is just how we do things around here. And that's how you build healthy culture. It's how you build healthy families. It's how you build healthy humans. But it does require a ton of sacrifice. And I also want to just be mindful of like, not everyone's in the position to always make those sacrifices, right? Like sometimes you're just like, hey, like this is what pays the bills, or this, and again, like rule of two, you know, one-off thing here and there. Sure, you do it more than once, maybe that's the person that you're becoming, and maybe you don't want to become that person, maybe you do, who's to say?
Right, exactly. But I think one thing is clear: you have to know what your values are, and maybe for someone watching, your first step is, have you written them down? Like, write them down somewhere. What is it? The things I had a mentor recently. He's been helping me over the past year. I'm gonna have him on the show here soon. I literally have, even though I'm not married yet with kids, I have the Condoli mission statement, vision statement, values all written out of like, hey, here's the things that I value. And I don't have a leg tattoo of every person, but I do have my mom's name tattooed on my arm. She's in heaven now.
Oh, can I stop you? My first tattoo, yes, I got was also for my mom, who is also in heaven.
Come on. Really? Yeah. Wow. Man, that's special, man. That is, I literally just got it. Literally with Jason, we were in Florida. So yeah, I was about 8 years old. And but in 8 years, I always tell people, in 8 years, she did what I don't know anyone could do. She instilled in me things that I'm still living off of. And she was a woman of faith. By the time I could speak, I was confessing scripture. And so I have her name tattooed. So I look down. So I think of a person I'm interacting with, how I'm conducting business, what she approved. And so that's my North Star. And whatever it is for you, you got to have yours, and it's got to be written down. I think that's so key, because you're just gonna, you're gonna, if there's the old adage, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And even though it's cheesy, but it's very, very true, because there's a lot of different value systems out there, but you have to know what's yours. And so I think that's so critical. Okay, last question, because I want to honor your time, and it's been amazing. Just even the time we've had, so much wisdom. I'd love, again, part of what we talk about here at Faith Hustle a lot is the balance and living in both worlds of ministry and business. Part of why I started this was I did a whole book study with my pastor in a men's small group, and we went through a book called Multiply, and it talked about how our mandate is to multiply. That like faithfulness and being a good steward is not just maintaining, it is to multiply. So if it's a business, you should grow. Now, it doesn't say how fast you should grow, or everybody should be a millionaire. That we're not talking about that. But that to be a good steward, and we're doing it unto the Lord, that means what we're doing is multiplying in some way. I found in my own journey a very hard balance. And for a long time, it was tough for me to even desire to make money, because I just felt this guilt, if you will, of making money, of like, man, is this sacrificing doing ministry? Is this what God would want? But I have this pull in business as well. I'd love, because you really exist in both worlds, right? Like, even though you're not a 501c3, you do help the church, and you are ministering whether you know it or not. What's your encouragement to others that feel called to both, to help in ministries, maybe to help ministries or be in ministry, but also be in business? Did you ever have a wrestle with that? And if you did, how did you overcome it? What would you encourage someone in that?
I would be lying if I said I've ever felt something like that. It's a pretty common retort that I've heard from yourself and many others. But at least for me, I never encountered that type of resistance. I don't really know what more to say other than that. I could wax poetic and say, but like, it's not something that I'm familiar with at all. So it would be strange for me to be like, but if you are feeling like that, try this, because it's not something that I've run into. Clearly, I'm a deranged individual. It does not have that part of my moral compass intact, and don't listen to me on that front whatsoever.
No. Well, I'm curious if there's, were you taught a certain way about it? Because to be fair, I think a lot of it is tradition, right? You follow a certain path, or you see, hey, you want to make an impact in the kingdom in some way. What's the number one way? Or you got to work at a church, or you got to, be in a ministry of some sort, some type of 501c3 or missions or whatever, right? And so if you do anything opposite, it's like, well, you're not really doing ministry. And I feel like that's the tug of war a lot of people have. I'm curious, like, you're saying you and I believe you never have wrestled with that. I'm curious, what was, maybe was it a pastor or somebody when you were younger that instilled in you, like, yeah, this looks like ministry too. Like, there's no separation.
Like, if there was a spectrum where you had like prosperity gospel on one side and poverty gospel on the other, I've never really been near either of those. Been pretty center right down the middle. Like, both my parents were civil servants. Dad was a firefighter. Mom was a librarian. Before that, a stay-at-home mom. I grew up in a really small farm town in Canada, so like pretty humble beginnings. Like, we didn't really ever eat out as a kid, but we were fine. We had a small home, and parents paid that off because they saved every dollar that they had. Must have been listening to Dave Ramsey, I suppose. I'm not sure. So pretty normal middle class upbringing, I would suppose. If someone told me that what I'm doing is not ministry, I'd be like, I that's fine. It wouldn't bother me. I don't feel like I have to like stake a claim that like what I do is ministry. I feel like it is, but if someone said, no, you have to like, do X, Y, and Z to qualify for doing ministry, it's not something that I care so deeply about that I would say like, no, and try to fight for that. I posted on Instagram the other day, and it was a carousel, like why I never became a pastor. And it's one that I recycle roughly every year, once or twice, because people really resonate with it. And every time I publish it, a person's like, yeah, because you just didn't have what it takes. And I'm like, hey, you're probably right. Like, that's kind of the point of the post. It's like, but thanks.
They're trying to be a zinger. You're like, no, you were correct.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you got it. And then most of the comments are people being like, man, I feel so seen. Like, I feel this, but I didn't know how to articulate it just right. Or like, I see myself in you in this small way, and I'm different in this way, whatever it might be. But we do things for churches, and we say on our like Nucleus website, like friendly pricing for churches of all sizes. I think our pricing is very accessible for most folks and for most churches. And we do that because, one of our company values is, and I'll bring it up here. I meant to say this earlier, but we have an entire podcast on our values. Like, if you're curious to hear like what all of our company values are and what my personal values are. And in that same podcast, we talk about, like how to develop your own. I didn't want to just say like, write your values. People are like, I don't know what that means, man. That's pretty abstract. So feel free to track that down, the Pro Church Tools Show podcast values. You'll find it that way. So one of the values we have at the company, oh, cool, man, appreciate it, is just called, it's defined like this. Productivity is not the highest goal. The bottom line is not the ultimate motivator. For what will it profit us to gain the whole world, yet forfeit our souls? Practically, this could mean choosing a hybrid work week over peak efficiency, or investing in memorable shared experiences instead of stashing a bit more away. Structurally, we won't sacrifice our collective well-being on the altar of private enterprise. One of the things I'm most proud of is for the first 6 employees that I hired, which were like our core first employees who happened to be all friends from youth group, because what did I know about hiring at 21? They all make, at least in Canada, like a top 10% salary on average in the country. And they're all like late 20s, early 30s. So that's like one way that we try to embody that value, where it's like, hey, like Brady could stash more away for himself and pay those first employees like according to what the marketplace defines. But that's, one way to be generous. And you talked about multiplication. Like, I don't like to have the ignorance and naivety to think like I'm the one that should be doing all the multiplying. And like, what does it mean for those families and those people to have like an income so that they can do with their family what they want and give how they want and raise their children and buy homes and do things that frankly, like a lot of people our age aren't getting the opportunities to do in the same way as our parents, just because of like shifting financial landscape. So hopefully there was something in there that was useful and applicable to someone somewhere.
No, I think that's good. I love what you said towards the end of like, part of how you can kind of be unemotional about it is like, hey, if I love people and I want to take care of people, I want them to have a great lifestyle, be able to take care of their families, then, multiplying is what I have to do. And so it's not as matter of, over spiritualizing it, or, whether on one end or the other. I loved your perspective on that. And no, I think that's going to help a lot of people, because I do think your perspective helps a lot of people who feel seen because they feel stuck in those both worlds. And so I love that, man. Dude, thank you for your time, for real. It's I know it's a very valuable commodity, and you're pulled in a lot of different directions, but I really appreciate your time and pouring into this community. And yeah, I look forward to the next time. Hopefully I can see you the next time you're in Dallas here. Would love to shake your hand and maybe get you on the show in person.
Yes, sir. Yeah, our paths crossing in person would be great.
Absolutely. Well, take care. Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Faith Hustle Podcast. We hope it encouraged you, equipped you, and got you ready for your faith hustle. If this is something that resonates with you and you want to join this community, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on YouTube or on any audio platform that you listen to. Also, subscribe to our email newsletter. We put out tips every week to help your business. And lastly, if this podcast has been any encouragement to you, we want to ask if you can leave a review for us. It really helps us to get to more people so more business owners can be impacted by the community and the message. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.